Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala rasulillahi amma ba'. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we want to shed some light on an important issue in the religion of Islam. As a matter of fact, it is the single most important issue that every Muslim man and woman should try to engage in trying to understand and learn as much as possible, as it is the, as I mentioned, most important aspect of the religion of Islam. I want to mention some things about the importance of the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal and the kalimah La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. If you were to stop the average Muslim on the street, your relative, your neighbor, people you go to school with, and you were to ask them, what is the definition of La ilaha illallah? Many people will give the false and the erroneous and mistaken definition that La ilaha illallah means that there is no God but Allah. And that is the literal translation. La ilaha illallah means there is no God but Allah. But if you were to read the Kitab of Allah, the Quran, and the authentic Sunnah, you will come to know that La ilaha illallah, that formula, it means more than that. It actually means that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah. There are many gods other than Allah. Meaning, some people take Jesus, the son of Maryam, as a God and an object to be worshipped other than Allah. Other people believe in the Buddha. Other people, they believe in monkeys and cows, power, money. Some people, their God happens to be their desires, or a woman, or other than that. So there are many gods that are worshipped along with Allah. The sun, the moon, the stars, fire. La ilaha illallah means there's no God worthy of worship except Allah. That of all of the gods that mankind have manufactured for themselves, Isa, Uzair, the sun, the moon, all of the gods that people have created and manufactured for themselves, none of those gods have the right to be worshipped except Allah, the one true God, the owner, the sustainer, the creator of the heavens and the earth. When Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to the people of Quraysh, and he told those people in Quraysh, say La ilaha illallah. When he told them, say La ilaha illallah, believe in La ilaha illallah, immediately Quraysh knew exactly what he meant. Quraysh knew that La ilaha illallah was a direct threat and assault on the economic system. It was a direct threat. It was a direct assault on the power that they held in the Arabian Peninsula. And that's because in Mecca, as you all know, as Allah mentioned in the Quran in Surah Quraysh, Li ilafi Quraysh, ilafihim rihlatashi was safe. In this surah, those non-Muslims, the Arabs, used to travel to Mecca, and they used to pay homage to the many idols that were at the Kaaba. They used to give money to Quraysh. They used to make a lot of efforts to give money to the idols at the Kaaba. So when the Nabi told them La ilaha illallah, it meant in their mind and their understanding that all of these gods that we've created at the Kaaba, none of them have the right to be worshipped except Allah. So right away, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, those people were predisposed to having animosity and enmity towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they knew if there's no God worthy of worship except Allah, then that meant that all of the worship and all the sacrifices and efforts that they used to make for the false gods and deities, Al-Izzah, Al-Manat, Al-Lat, all of those 364 gods that they used to worship, Quraysh knew right away that they were going to lose money, and that these gods were effectively something that had to be put on the side. So the point here is, the non-Muslims of Quraysh, they understood this formula better than many Muslims today. You'll find the mu'adhin in a given masjid, he makes the adhan and he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah in the adhan, and yet he makes dua to other than the Prophet he makes dua to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't understand La ilaha illallah. An individual, a Muslim, says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and yet they present in front of their children birthday cakes, and they tell the child, blow the candles out on the cake. That person didn't understand La ilaha illallah. Christmas, Easter, and the celebrations and what they entail. The one who participates in those celebrations in any shape, form, or fashion, he didn't understand La ilaha illallah. The one who puts on himself a talisman, a tamima, ta'weed, the one who does magic, the one who tries to take magic off with white magic, he didn't understand La ilaha illallah. The one who swears, instead of saying Wallahi, I swear by Allah, I swear by the Lord of Muhammad, I swear by my Lord, I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba, he doesn't say that. Instead of, he says, I swear by my forefathers, I swear on my mother's grave. The one who says that, he doesn't understand La ilaha illallah. The one who believes that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Hazir, Nazir, the Khatam, the Yarmi, he doesn't understand La ilaha illallah. So La ilaha illallah is the single most important principle in the religion of Al-Islam. The monotheism and the oneness of Allah. It has been dissected by the ulama of Al-Islam. Scholars of Islam concerning this formula, La ilaha illallah, they wrote all kinds of different books to show its importance, to lay it out, to make it clear and transparent for any Muslim to learn and to comprehend the deep details of the formula. So some scholars, they came and they gathered all of the ayat of the Quran that talk about La ilaha illallah, and they explained those ayat, why they were revealed and what they imply and what they mean. Other scholars came and they gathered up the hadith, the statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam talking about La ilaha illallah, explaining what the hadith means and what happened and what were the reasons that the Prophet said whatever he said in those particular ahadith. Other scholars came, they wrote books about the nawaqid of La ilaha illallah, those things that if you say them or you do them, they run counterproductive to your La ilaha illallah. They're the things that nullify La ilaha illallah. Like Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab has his book Nawaqid of Al-Islam. Scholars came and they wrote books about the conditions of La ilaha illallah. Other scholars came, they wrote books about the sacrifices that the people of the past made and the minhaj that the people of the truth are upon concerning establishing La ilaha illallah. Like that great scholar of Al-Islam and Imam Ibn Khuzaymah, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Khuzaymah, has a book called Kitab al-Tawheed. It is a book talking about the minhaj of the Salaf in regards to giving da'wah to La ilaha illallah. How did the Prophet do that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the ulama after him? Shaykh al-Islam, again, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he has a book, Kitab al-Tawheed, Kitab al-Tawheed, discussing all of those issues that are under the umbrella of the correct comprehension of La ilaha illallah, as well as mentioning those things that, again, they run counter to the correct understanding of La ilaha illallah. So the point is that these scholars of Islam, they didn't leave any stone unturned in an attempt to try to get the Muslim, give the Muslim the opportunity, especially the student of knowledge, to give the Muslim the opportunity to do his or her level best to try to understand as much as he or she can possibly understand concerning this most important formula of La ilaha illallah. So there were those scholars who wrote about the virtues of La ilaha illallah. And there are many, many virtues. As I look in the audience, brothers and sisters, if each and every one of you were to give 5 virtues apiece, I went across, I said, you, give me 5, you give me 5, you give me 5, 5. And from the sister side as well, from the Quran, if you all gave me 5 virtues from the Quran, there are going to be more virtues that you did not mention. If I said each one of you, give me 5 virtues of La ilaha illallah from the authentic sunnah, and each one of you gave me 5 virtues of La ilaha illallah with the dalil from the sunnah, there are going to be more virtues that you didn't mention, that could have been mentioned. So you youngsters, you brothers, you sisters, now I'm not talking about the older Muslim who's just satisfied with being a Muslim, which is okay. Some of them are just really old, they're up in age, they just want to feel Allah and that's it. But for younger people who want to worship Allah with clarity and worship Allah Azza wa Jal with proofs and with al-basira, then I encourage all of you to have an insatiable appetite when it comes to trying to learn as much as you possibly can learn about the virtues of this particular kalimah, the fada'il. So instead of just presenting them to you, I'm going to ask for some class participation. Now bear with me. If we stopped a Hindu on the road and we said, hey, you, why is the cow sacred in your religion? The Hindu is going to explain to us why the cow is sacred in this religion. And I say here without biting my tongue that the religion of Hindus is batil. It's batil. If we were to ask the average Christian, why do you believe Jesus is the Son of Allah? He's going to tell you, he's going to tell me why he believes that. And I believe that the religion of Christianity is batil. Batil. That doesn't mean I'm going to harm the Hindu, I'm going to harm the Christian. Doesn't mean that at all. But I see that their religion and what they believe doesn't make any sense. And it can be dealt with in an academic way to show. This is why I don't embrace that. Now as Muslims, the most important aspect of the religion of Islam is La ilaha illallah. Every Muslim should be able to have something to say about that. He should be able to give some proofs. She should be able to give some proofs. What are some of the virtues of this particular kalima? And what I mean by the virtues of it, and I want you guys, you brothers and sisters, to help me along with this, inshallah. Sisters can send their text message to Brother Ajmal or send a piece of paper where they write it on if they want. But what I'm asking for is to be able to give a proof of the virtue of La ilaha illallah as you understand it with some ayat or some hadith. I give you an example. One of the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the fact that Allah Azza wa Jalla has made La ilaha illallah the foundation of the call of every single prophet and messenger. There were some subtle differences in what the prophets and the messengers called their people to. They had some subtle differences. But one thing that they all called them to, and the most important thing that they called them to, was La ilaha illallah. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن قَبْلِكَ مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدُونِي. We never sent any Rasul to his people except that all of them said to their people, there's no God worthy of worship except me, so worship me. So from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the fact that it was the call, it was the message of every prophet and messenger. Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Yaqub, Ishaq, Sulaiman, Dawood, all of them came to their people. None of them said to the people, worship me. They all said, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. That's one of the virtues. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. Those prophets and the messengers, they were not commanded to do anything except to worship Allah with ikhlas. So La ilaha illallah from its virtues is, it was the foundation and the fundamental principle of all of the prophets and all of the messengers. So that ayat is a proof of the virtues of La ilaha illallah. As for the sunnah, and I'm just sharing this with you because we're going to ask you guys, you brothers and sisters, give me some of the virtues, inshallah. From the virtues is that in the authentic hadith that's been collected by Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim, Abu Hurairah, he said that the Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, al-iman bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba, or bid'un wa sittuna shu'ba, fafdaluha qawlu la ilaha illallah, wa adnaha imatat al-adhan al-tariqa, wal haya shu'batun min al-iman. From the virtues of la ilaha illallah is that the Nabi said, al-iman, having belief, being a mu'min, al-iman, it is 70 something branches or 60 something branches. He said the highest level of iman, the best part of iman is your statement la ilaha illallah. Shows the virtues of la ilaha illallah. That is the highest branch of al-iman. He said the lowest branch is moving something that's harmful, an object that's harmful out of the way. So if a Muslim walks by and he sees a piece of glass, he sees some wood with a nail in it, something that's harmful, that can harm the people, if he just leaves it there, he doesn't have the lowest level of faith That's the lowest level of faith, to take something harmful and to move it out of the way. Because none of you truly believes until he loves his brother what he loves for himself. So he doesn't want to be harmed. Part of Iman is that he loves to his brother what he doesn't want, love what he loves for himself. He doesn't want to be harmed. So therefore, if he loves to his brother what he loves for himself, he should remove any harmful object out of the way. If he just leaves it there, then that's a sign and an indication that his Iman is low. So the point is, from the virtues of La ilaha illallah, is that it is the highest branch of Al-Iman. It's the best branch of Al-Iman. And there are many other proofs. But I want you guys to help me with this, inshallah. Some class participation from the people of Islam. So with a show of hands, anyone, there are many. Now don't say from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is what all the Muslims say. Don't say things like that. We need an ayat, we need a hadith that show this is a virtue. So who wants to be the first one? Who wants to be the first one? People of Islam, who wants to be the first one? Aywa? Okay, Ibrahim. What's one of the virtues that show the importance of La ilaha illallah? Ibrahim. Now, from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. من قال لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. Anyone who says La ilaha illallah will enter into Jannah. Connected to that are many other issues. The Prophet says sallallahu alayhi wasallam, من كان آخر كلامه لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. Anyone who the last thing that he says is La ilaha illallah will go to Jannah. When a person is about to die, if you know someone who's about to die, then the sunnah is to have religious, practicing, knowledgeable people to attend those last moments of his life. And they should try their best to get him to say La ilaha illallah. If you guys go to the YouTube, on the YouTube, there's a clip that if you put in there, in the YouTube clip, you put in there, man buried alive in Syria. I don't know if you've seen that YouTube clip where the Syrian government put the guy inside of a hole, the soldiers, Syrian government, they put the guy inside of a hole and they filled the hole up to his neck. He couldn't move, but you can see his head moving and he's talking. The Syrian soldier is telling him to say there's no God except the leader of that country. But the man was saying La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. And then finally put all of the dirt over his head and they buried him alive. Saddam Hussein, before they hung him, he said La ilaha illallah. Saddam Hussein was an oppressor, and only Allah knows what his final end and the result of Saddam Hussein is going to be. But the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, he says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever the last words that come out of his mouth, La ilaha illallah, he's going to go to Jannah. So that's one of the virtues of La ilaha illallah. Of all of the things that could be said, that could have been mentioned in this hadith, it was La ilaha illallah that was chosen. Good job, Akhi Ibrahim, with the first hadith that you memorized. Anyone else? Anyone else? Don't be shy. Come on, guys. One of the virtues of La ilaha illallah. That's the meaning. That's the breakdown of the meaning. I'll give you another one. I'll give you another virtue of La ilaha illallah. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in Surah An-Naba, Amma yatasa'alun. He said, يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ صَفًّا لَا يَتَكَلَّمُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ الرَّحْمَنُ وَقَالَ الصَّوَابَ. On that day, the Malaika, Jibril and the rest of the Malaika, they will come and they will be in lines, and no one will be able to speak except the one that Ar-Rahman, Allah gave him the permission to speak, and when he speaks, he's going to say the Sawab. Abdullah bin Abbas said, Sawab And I think this word is in Urdu, it's in everyone's language. Sawab means correct, exact. When he speaks, he's going to speak what is correct. Ibn Abbas said, Sawab in this ayat means that the one who gives the ability to speak, when he speaks, he's going to say, La ilaha illallah. You and I, if we read that ayat, we won't understand that from the ayat. But again, that's the importance of taking those books that those scholars wrote about the virtues of La ilaha illallah, the conditions of La ilaha illallah, the arkan of La ilaha illallah, the madlulat, what it points to, and so forth and so on. So, from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is, Ibn Abbas said, in this particular surah, the only people who will be able to speak Yawmul Qiyamah are the people who are going to say that word. So that's from the virtues. Another virtue is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He has made it the Qawl al-Thabit. The Qawl al-Thabit, the established word. He said, يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ وَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ الظَّالِمِينَ وَيَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ. Allah will establish those people who believe with a strong word in the dunya and in the hereafter. And Allah sends the zalimeen, the oppressors astray, does whatever He wants to do. Again, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the word that Allah will establish the people with in the dunya and the hereafter is the ability to say La ilaha illallah, or what's connected to it. The qawl al-thabit, when the two angels, Munkar and Nakir, come to the person in the grave, they say, what's your religion? My religion is Islam. What do you have to say? Who's your Lord? He says, my Lord is Allah. What did you have to say about that man who came to you? They're going to say, he's Abdullah and he's Rasulullah. That's part of the qawl al-thabit, the established word that Allah Azza wa Jalla will give the person the ability to say in the dunya as well as in the hereafter. So the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam explained that the qawl al-thabit was the statement La ilaha illallah. You guys, anybody want to try? Come on guys, there's so many. Anybody? From the virtues, guys, of La ilaha illallah, and I thought someone would have figured this one out, is that there will be a man who will come Yawm al-Qiyamah and his books of bad deeds will be presented. There will be 99 books of evil deeds, of things that he did that he should not have done, things that he didn't do that he should have done. They will be for as far as his eyes can see, and they will be put on the scales, and they're going to make the scale go down. Bad deeds, evil things that he did. It will be said to him, did you do any good deed? The man say, no, I didn't do any good deed. They say, yes, you did one good deed. And they will bring out for him a bataka. They will bring out for him a card, and on that card will be written his good deed of saying La ilaha illallah, his good deed of believing La ilaha illallah. The man will say, what is this small word going to do in comparison to all of these evil deeds that I've done? It will be said to him, on this day you won't be oppressed at all. La ilaha illallah will be put in the scale, and it's going to outweigh all of that evil that he did. That's from the biggest virtues of La ilaha illallah. It goes to show that an individual who does many bad deeds, like the Hadith al-Qudsi. Allah said in the Hadith al-Qudsi, O Ibn Adam, son of Adam, if you came to me Yawm al-Qiyamah, when you die, you come to me and you filled up the earth with bad deeds, but you met me not making shirk with me, I'm going to come to you with as much forgiveness as the evil that you brought forth, and I don't care. So that hadith of the scale goes to show the weight of La ilaha illallah. And it also shows how if a person did all of the evil that you can possibly think about other than shirk, his situation is with Allah. If he murdered people, which is not acceptable. He drank khamr, not acceptable. He smoked crack, not acceptable. Didn't pray, but he believed in salat, not acceptable. Didn't wear hijab, not acceptable. Did all of this craziness. If they come Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's up to Allah. It's not up to you, it's not up to me to judge. It's up to Allah. If Allah chooses, Allah will put them straight into Jannah. If Allah chooses, Allah will punish them and clean them up and then put them in Jannah. That's totally up to Allah. But it goes to show, no matter what the person does of evil deeds, if he meets Allah without making shirk, Allah is going to forgive him. And the opposite holds true as well. If a person brought all of the good in the world, he filled up the whole world with good. He took care of the orphans. He took care of the rights of animals. He built places of worship. He fed the poor. He did all of that stuff. But he came making shirk with Allah, ascribing partners with Allah. No matter how much good he did, Yawmul Qiyamah won't get into the Jannah. Because the only thing that will qualify the man or the woman to get into the Jannah is that they believed in this kalimah of a tawheed. That's one of the virtues. I was hoping that one of you would get that, because I'm sure most of you heard that hadith. Anybody else have an example of the virtues of La ilaha illallah? Umar. Now, although it's not mentioned in La ilaha illallah, but the concept is still consistent. Prophet, he asked Abdullah, he asked Mu'adh ibn Jabal, do you know the rights that Allah has over his slaves and the rights that the slaves have over Allah? He said, Allah and his messenger know best. He said the rights that Allah has over the slave is that they don't make shirk with him, that they worship him and don't make shirk with him. And the rights that Allah has over them, the rights that they have over Allah is if they don't make shirk, Allah will forgive them. So that's showing the virtues of a tawheed. But I'm talking about the kalima la ilaha illallah. For an example, the Nabi says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the virtues of la ilaha, anyone who makes the proper wudu, he doesn't waste water, and while performing wudu, he hits all of his body parts. He doesn't leave any part untouched. Like the hadith that was sent to me by one of the people in the audience, the people were making wudu, and the Nabi told the people, waylun lil aqab min an-nar. Whoa, whoa, be careful of your ankles, your heels, that they may be in the hellfire. Because some people were making wudu and they were not making the water go over the whole part of the body. So that was his way of telling them, make sure you don't leave any spots. Now that doesn't mean you should have wiswas, and when you're making wudu, you think you left a spot, so you keep going over and over and over again. You make wudu the best way that you can make wudu, without wasting water, and you follow the sunnah. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, anybody who makes wudu, and then after performing wudu, he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. The 8 doors of Jannah will be open for him, and he'll get an opportunity to enter into any of those 8 doors that he wants to enter into. So from the virtues of la ilaha illallah is that shahada after making wudu. If the person, every time he makes wudu, he or she, they make that formula, they say that formula, then they position themselves to enter into one of those 8 doors of Al-Jannah that are opened up because of La ilaha illallah. Anybody else? Brothers in the back, you guys in the back. What are one of the virtues of La ilaha illallah? I see some of you scratching your head as if the answer's gonna come. Some are looking at his clock to watch, maybe the answer's gonna come. Come on, guys, I know you must know this. Come on, Bismillah. One of the virtues of La ilaha illallah, guys, and this is important for our everyday life, is what happened to the Prophet of Islam, Yunus, Jonah. Allah Azza wa Jalla tried Jonah, and he put him in the belly of a well. Being in the belly of a well is a problem, is darkness. And that darkness was compounded by more darkness in that the well goes down and he swims the bottom of the ocean, darkness upon darkness. So if a person is in difficulty, if a person has problems, if a person has anxiety, La ilaha illallah is one of the best du'as. It is the best dua to get you out of your problem. Allah mentioned, فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ إِنِّي سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Allah said that Jonah, he called out in the darkness that there is no God worthy of worship except you. And verily, I was from those who are oppressive. So La ilaha illallah opens up the door for the problems that we have. The Nabi said about La ilaha illallah being a dua. He said, خير الدعاء دعاء يوم عرفة وخير ما قلت أنا والنبيون قبلي لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وعلى كل شيء قدير. He said the best dua you can make is the dua on the day of Arafah. And the best dua that I made in the prophets before me on Arafah day was La ilaha illallah. وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وعلى كل شيء قدير. So it's the best, it's part of the best dua. In addition to that, ikhwani, from the virtues of La ilaha illallah and dua, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, anyone who says La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah 100 times in a day, he'll get the reward of freeing 10 slaves. 100 hasanat will be written for him, and 100 sayyi'at will be taken off of him. And no one comes with anything better than what he did, other than someone who added more of that particular dhikr than he actually made. So that's from the virtues of La ilaha illallah. Anybody think of anything else? Now, from the virtues of La ilaha illallah, ikhwani, is that if a person says La ilaha illallah, and we hear him say that, his blood, his property, and his honor are haram. All of them become sacred because he mentioned this particular kalimah. And it's not for you, it's not for me to compromise his blood, his honor, or to compromise his money. You can't take his money, you can't shed his blood, and you can't say anything about that individual because he said La ilaha illallah. It's one of the things in Islam that gives fortification for an individual. So if that is not a virtue, then I don't know what a virtue is after that. That if a person says it, although he may do other things, if a person says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, he takes that shahad and he says it, then it guarantees him certain issues. His blood, his honor, his property is haram. La ilaha illallah gives him that safeguard. Good job, Akhi Ajmal. Good job. Any more? Harun, any? Because now, from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is that it's part of what's mentioned. Good job, Harun. The Nabi said when people come together in an assembly, things are said that are correct, things are said that are not correct. He said before dispersing from the assembly, anyone who says, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Anyone who says that, then anything that was said in that gathering, it will be forgiven. And La ilaha illallah is in that formula. Good job, Harun. So Harun and Ibrahim are the only two people who are exempt. You guys can go if you want to go. Come on, guys. Now the rest of you, come on. You got to come up with some. La ilaha illallah. What's one of the virtues of La ilaha illallah? People of Islam, Ahlul Islam. What are one of the virtues of it? Anybody? From the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He said that La ilaha illallah was the kalimah baqiyah, the everlasting word that was given to Ibrahim. He mentioned in the Quran, وَإِذْ يَقُولُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِّمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي فَإِنَّهُ سَيَهْدِينِ. وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً بَاقِيَةً فِي عَقِبِهِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And remember when Ibrahim said to his father and to his people, I'm free from what you worship other than Allah. Verily, Allah is the one who's going to guide me. So we made it an everlasting word in his descendants in the hopes that they will be guided aright. They will return and be guided aright. Again, Ibn Abbas, he said that this word that was said in Arabic, وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً بَاقِيَةً, it was made as an everlasting word. Ibn Abbas said the everlasting word was La ilaha illallah. The fact that he built Mecca, the Kaaba, Safa and Marwa, and all of the things that are done in that particular place, and all of the statements of La ilaha illallah that's said in all of those places, Mina, Muzdalifa, and Safa and Marwa, all of those dua, is the everlasting word that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said was given to Ibrahim. Okay, we're going to stop here, inshallah ta'ala. If you brothers have any questions concerning today's presentation or anything else for that matter, you can put your question forward. You sisters as well. You can either write it or send the text message to an Akh Ajmal. Do you guys have something? Aywa, Akhi, Harun. Yeah, there's no contradiction. The point is that in making the wudu, as there are many different ways of doing different types of worship in Islam. The Prophet prayed, and when he prayed, he did things differently in the salah. The du'as he made were different. When the Prophet ﷺ performed Hajj, there are 3 different types of Hajj that you can perform. So the wudu, there are different ways that you can perform it. You can do the water once, everything one time. You could do the water twice. You can use the water and do it 3 times on each body part. Another difference is that when you put the water in your mouth, he used to put it in his mouth and spit it out. Another way you can do it is put it in your mouth and your nose simultaneously. So there are different ways that they can be done. So if a person does the wudu once, with the water once, that hadith about making a good wudu, it doesn't mean that he uses a lot of water. Doesn't mean that. The companion, I don't recall which one, he said that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make a ghusl from a sa' of water. A sa' of water is if you take 4 handfuls of something, that makes a sa'. So that companion, I believe, was Abu Huraira. He told a guy, you're wasting the water. The Nabi used to make ghusl from a sa' of water, which is 4 handfuls of water. The man said, but I got a lot of hair, meaning I need a lot of water. He said, the Prophet had more hair than you do. So the point is, to make a good wudu means you get all of the body parts. You can get your hand wet without wasting water, and just with the wetness of your hand, go over your arm. You don't have to put that water on your hand. You don't have to do that on your arm. You could wet your arm, your hand, and based on that wetness, get the whole arm wet. So there's no contradiction. The perfect and the good wudu does not mean a lot of water. It actually means don't waste water. Don't waste water. And Allah knows best. Little brother. In Jannah, do you have to pray? I don't know any dalil that the people of Jannah will be praying. I don't know any proof that the people of Jannah will be praying. What I know is that once the people go to Jannah, they would have accomplished and attained the ultimate felicity and the ultimate state of nirvana, if you will. So salat and these other efforts that we make in the dunya are not efforts that people have to struggle and strive for in the hereafter. And Allah knows best. Is it permissible to wear colored contact lenses? I don't know anything that would make that haram. I don't know anything that would make that haram in and of itself. It's a beautification. And the ayah of the Quran said, قُلْ مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Who is it that's going to make haram the good things and the wholesome things that Allah Ta'ala has made halal from the beautification of the dunya? Tell them these are from the things that are permissible for the believers in this life, and it will only be for them in the hereafter. So in and of itself, I don't know anything that would make colored contact lenses haram, but a person should not actively engage in trying to deceive people and making them think. For an example, if something came up, he or she should let people know if there was a need to know. That's not really what my eyes look like, and so forth and so on. But there's nothing wrong with that, and Allah knows best. It's not changing Allah's creation. Aywa. Good job. That's a very important question, Akhi Harun. The hadith of the man with 99 scrolls, it will be said to that man, or the hadith said, the man didn't do any good deeds. So him not doing any good deeds includes salat. So some of the scholars of Islam who say, if a person abandons salah, he doesn't pray out of negligence, but he believes it's wajib, this hadith shows he's not outside of the fold of Islam. Because all of the prophets and the messengers used to pray. All of the people have prayed, always. Salat is something that every nation has done. And this man didn't do anything good. Do you have any good deeds? No. You have one good deed. La ilaha illallah. So that's one of the strong evidences that scholars use to show, look, the man is not outside of the religion. Other scholars who say that he's outside of religion, they have their dalils to try to push that away, but it seems like that's the strongest position. Wallahu alam. Good job, Akhi Harun. Any more questions, Ikhwan? Aywa. If a person dies, and we know that he wasn't praying, he's an open sinner, he used to drink khamr, he used to gamble, he didn't pray, can we ask Allah for forgiveness? Of course. And we should. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Say, O my servants who have gone overboard in transgressing against themselves, don't give up from the rahmah of Allah. Allah will forgive every sin. Another ayah Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Allah will never forgive that you make shirk with him, but he'll forgive anything other than that. He'll forgive anything other than that. The man killed 99 people, 100 people, went to Jannah. The lady, she was a prostitute. She gave water to the dog. She went to Jannah. The man denied and doubted Allah's ability, and he told his children, take my ashes and burn them and spread them over the sea and the land. If Allah had the ability to bring me back together again, he's going to punish me, a punishment that he never punished anyone else before. So he doubted Allah's ability, his qudra and his quwwah. So Ahl Sunnah, we say, as long as a person doesn't die on kufr and shirk, he has a chance. So yes, we should make dua for his forgiveness. Now, the issue comes about the janazah. Should we pray over his janazah? Yes, we should pray over his janazah. But if the leader or if a respected personality decided, I'm not going to pray over him to show the people they shouldn't do that thing, then that's from the sunnah. But we should make dua for those individuals. We should ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to forgive them. No doubt about it. Naam. No doubt, La ilaha illallah included in that, as we mentioned, the madlulat. What does it point to? Scholars have come up with some conditions of La ilaha illallah, like your key in your pocket. When you put your key inside of the hole to get into your house, your key is not a straight groove, it has teeth on it. And if the teeth of your key don't fit that cylinder, it's not going to open up the door. La ilaha illallah is the key of al-Jannah, but it has some teeth to it. You have to bring the conditions. And from those conditions of La ilaha illallah is you have to have yaqeen about it, you have to have knowledge about it, you have to have ikhlas about it, you have to have love for it, you have to have acceptance of it, al-qabul. You have to have al-inqiyad. Al-inqiyad means you're going to work by what it implies. You have to work by what it implies. And working by what it implies is praying, wearing hijab, making halal halal, haram haram. And if a person makes a mistake, he makes tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jal. So those scholars of Islam who said that a person who doesn't pray, he has negated his La ilaha illallah. Umar, when he was stabbed to death and he was about to die, he said, Wallahi, there's no iman for the one who doesn't make salah. He doesn't believe in La ilaha illallah if he doesn't pray. The difference between us and them is salah. Whoever abandons it, he didn't believe. So they're a dalil. فَإِن تَابُوا وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ. If the mushrikeen, if they make tawbah, meaning they leave off shirk and they come into the deen, and they establish salah and give zakat, then they're your brothers in the religion. But if they don't make tawbah, they don't make salah, they don't give zakat, they're not your brothers in the deen. So they have to make salah in order to be your brothers in the deen. But there are too many other dalils, too many proofs from the Quran, too many proofs from the Sunnah, from of which those that we mentioned today, that clearly some people are going to not be praying and they're still going to be benefited by La ilaha illallah. Like what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the hadith that's been collected by the Imam Ahmed. He says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that al-Islam is going to fade away the same way that the embroidery of your clothes fade away. You get a new thobe, the more you wash it, it starts to fade away. He said, and the Quran will be raised up in one night, and to the point that people won't even know one ayat. They won't know Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. They won't know Yasin, Alif Lam Mim, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. They won't know anything from the Quran. Whole Quran is going to be raised up. He said, and no one will remain except an old lady and an old man. They will be saying La ilaha illallah. They're going to say, we found our parents saying this, so we are saying this. And they will go to Jannah because of that. The Prophet said, there will be no salah, no zakat, no hajj. Abu Dhar, the narrator of the hadith, said, Ya Rasulullah, they're going to go to Jannah and they don't even pray? The Prophet said, yes, they're going to go to Jannah even though they didn't pray. They said, La ilaha illallah. He said, Ya Rasulullah, they're going to go to Jannah and they didn't even pray? Abu Dhar said it 3 times. Then Nabi said, yes, despite the nose of Abu Dhar. So they didn't say, all they said was La ilaha illallah because that's what they found their parents saying. Their parents didn't teach them salat. Their parents didn't teach them zakat. That was their condition. All they said was La ilaha illallah. That's it. So the great scholar of Islam from the Hanbali madhab, Al-Imam Muhammad Nasr al-Marwazi, he has a book called Kitab Ta'zim Qadr al-Salah. This book in the way of al-Hadith. This man was a muhaddith and a faqih. Muhammad Nasr al-Marwazi. He wrote this book and he has that chapter in there about those proofs that show the one who abandons salat doesn't go outside of Islam if he's abandoning it out of negligence and out of laziness. And Ibn al-Qayyim took from that book to establish his position that the one who doesn't pray out of negligence is not a kafir. And he went against the famous position of the Hanabila concerning that particular issue. And Allah knows best. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Yeah, concerning praying with the shoes on, the Prophet used to pray with his shoes on most of the time. And he would only take his shoes off sometimes. He was praying with his companions, and he took his shoes off while praying. And they followed him and took their shoes off. After Salat, he turned around, he said, why did you people take your shoes off? They said, we saw you did it. You did it, Ya Rasul, so we did it. He said, while I was praying, Jibril came to me and told me I had some defecation from the animals, doo-doo. I had doo-doo on my shoes. So I took the shoes off while I was praying. So that goes to show he used to pray. Plus he says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, authentic hadith, sallu fi ni'alikum fa inna al-yahud la yusalluna fi ni'alihim. Be different from the Jews and pray in your shoes. Verily, they don't pray in their shoes. And one of the reasons why they don't pray in their shoes is something that happened that's mentioned in the Quran. Musa salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi, when he went to take the Torah from Allah, when he went on the mountain of Tur, and he was up there, it was mentioned in the Quran, فَخْلَعْ نَعْلَيْكَ فَإِنَّكَ فِي أَرْضٍ مُقَدَّسَةٍ. Ya Musa, take off your shoes because you're in a sacred land. So Musa took his shoes off. That's in the Bible. So you'll find in the Bible that they used to pray without their shoes on. Symbolic of what happened with Musa. But that's their religion. That's not our religion. That's the legislation of the people who went before us. As for us, you can pray with your shoes if it's not going to be a problem. I don't advise, I don't suggest that you go to the masjid and pray with your shoes. If you're around people who don't know the religion, then don't pray with your shoes. But praying with your shoes is what the Prophet usually used to do, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But sometimes he took his shoes off. And now that we have carpets and things like that, I would say we should take our shoes off. In a place like here, now we're going to pray in this place right here. There are people who are going to be with us, they have no knowledge. Elders, for an example, they're going to look at us and say, man, what are these guys doing? Then take your shoes off so as not to make fitna until you educate those people to understand this is part of what is permissible. And there is a book, Akhi, that's been translated by Sheikh Muqbil. It's translated in English. The permissibility of praying in your shoes, where all of those dalils come, no doubt. There's a hadith that is authentic. The Nabi, he says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, bain al-mar'i wa shirk, tarku salat. Between a person and making shirk is if he abandons the prayer. So how do we understand that? If a person abandons the prayer, is he a mushrik? Some scholars say straight up and down, like 6 o'clock, he's committing shirk. He's committing shirk. He's a kafir outside the religion. The difference between us and them is salah. Whoever abandons is mushrik, kafir. Other scholars said no. It's an action of kufr. It's an action of disbelief. Just as lying, just as breaking the trust, just as swearing, and when you get into an argument using foul language, just as fighting another Muslim. Prophet told the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that fighting a Muslim is kufr. So these are actions of disbelief. But if he doesn't believe that it's halal, he knows that he's sinning by what he's doing, and he believes in salah, then as the ayat of the Quran said, لا يؤاخذكم الله إلا بما أقدت قلوبكم. Allah won't hold you guys, you people, accountable except for what your hearts intend. وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى وَإِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ سَوْفَ يُرَى. You people will be judged based upon what you intended, what you wanted. And verily what you're going after is going to be seen. So he believes salat is wajib. He believes he's sinning. He believes he's weak. He says, astaghfirullah, I know I'm sinning. Then it appears that he doesn't go outside of the religion. Due to, as I mentioned, those texts that we mentioned today. And another very clear hadith, very clear one. The Nabi said, 5 prayers should be done in a day and a night. Whoever makes them, He will come Yawm al-Qiyamah and they will be nur for him and a burhan with Allah. And anyone who doesn't do them, he won't have any nur and he won't have any burhan with Allah. And it's up to Allah to forgive him or to punish him. That hadith is sahih. خمس صلوات يقوم بها العبد في ليله ويومه من قام بها كان له نور يوم القيامة وبرهان عند الله ومن لم يأتي بها لم تكن له نور ولا برهان إلى الله إن شاء عذبه وإن شاء غفر له. 5 prayers you should do in the day and the night. Whoever does them, they're going to be a light for him, nur, and a proof with Allah. And whoever doesn't do them, then he won't have any light, he won't have any proof. And it's up to Allah to forgive him, and it's up to Allah to punish him. It's up to Allah, totally. And Allah knows best. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Okay, we're going to stop here, inshallah. Allah is a'lam, subhanallah. Kallahumma wa bihamdika wa shadu wa la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.